Hello guys, welcome back to Deep Riderz. Today we've got a 2018 Honda CB125R. I'll pass you over to Josh now and he'll tell you some more about it.
Hi guys, this is my Honda CB125R. This is also my house because it's lovely weather outside, thank you England. It's actually a really comfortable bike. I've done quite a few long distance miles on it, probably about 300 miles round trip. I didn't have a single problem, I was comfortable the whole way. The tyres are from factory pretty decent. I would recommend upgrading them of course just in case because the weather isn't really, they're not good for the weather. The bike itself has about 13 to 14 horsepower and a max torque of 10 Newton meters. It's also a 6-speed, which is pretty handy. The Grom, which I've done a previous review on, only had 4. It's a fuel injected and also liquid cooled bike. A few things I've done to it of course would be the K&N high flow air filter, Scorpion red power exhaust, and an RNG tail tidy kit. Oh, and bar mirrors, forgot about them, and a handy little cruise control. So this bike has dual ABS. I call it a granny ECU because it doesn't allow you to do a stoppie. The brakes are actually really good and they've helped me out on quite a few bad situations. The front tyre is a 17-inch and also by a 110, and the rear is a 17 by 150, which is quite surprising for stock. Factory tyres, they do come with Dunlop Sport GPR 300s. They're actually pretty good as long as you get them warm. In the wet, they tend to be a bit slippy. I have had to change the rear to a Bridgestone Battleaxe and it does make a massive difference. So I believe the wet weight on this bike was around 20 stone. I only really paid attention to stone for some reason, not kilograms. It does come factory with a set of shower forks which really make a difference. They honestly feel really nice and really stiff, and that's what helps with the handling of the bike. Second day I had it hit a massive brick on the same road as I last crashed on, and it did keep me on the bike, which is pretty cool. The rear suspension is pretty nice and firm. I've had a few people on the back, averaging around sort of 12-15 stone. You can't really notice them. It may sit down a little bit lower, but it's not actually that bad. The seat height is 816 millimeters, which is perfect for me because I'm 6 foot, so I can easily flat foot it. So I've forgotten the actual tank measurements. I know it holds about 10 to 12 pounds of the finest petrol you can get, thank you Shell. The actual range of the bike, it does tell me on the computer system itself. I've done 7,000 miles since I've got the bike, which is pretty cool. And the range is 20.5 miles per litre. Which I don't really understand that sort of measurements. The headlight on the bike from factory is actually really good. It's an LED on the main and the high. Best thing about it is when you actually put on the high, the main beam stays on as well, so you can still see everything. I know some bikes that like to switch it up so you can't see the floor, but you can see the tree you're about to hit into. It's got LED indicators and also LED rear light. To start off with the actual dash options itself, I'm going to have to turn on to remind myself. You get a full analog. It's got the time, a side stand notice, a gear count, and of course an analog digital petrol gauge. It's got the miles per hour and digital as well, along with how many miles you've done, trip A of course, trip B, and also a track timer, which I don't think you're ever going to use on a 125. It's got the miles per litre on average, how many litres of fuel I've actually used since owning the bike. Average mile an hour, 26, I'm quite proud of that. And then of course it does a rolling miles per litre, so it's basically just full pin it, let off, and it tells you I've got 100 miles left, which is not too good. Revs up to about 11,500 RPM, and you can actually adjust the shift light and also the dash brightness, and also when the shift light comes in. I've set it to be quite high because when you're riding at night, you don't really want it flashing in your face consistently, it gets quite blinding. I can't actually think of many cons other than one quite known one for these bikes I've seen on Facebook pages. It likes to have a coolant leak, particularly that hose just at the bottom of the radiator. I've made a simple fix by wrapping electrical tape. I am going to go to silicone hoses, but of course that's eventually. Positives, it's quite a comfortable ride. I'd say it does a decent miles per hour. It's not as fast as the MT, but it has a bit more torque off the line. The tank is slightly shorter actually if you was to want to compare it to an MT, so you're a bit more upright, which, depending on how you like your bikes, can be a good thing and a bad thing. It means you're a lot more comfortable, but you also can't tug as much because it will break your back. So I actually bought this bike because I came from a Honda MSX, which you would have seen in one of my last videos I was in. It's just something to me that looks better than a Yamaha MT. It may not, in some ways they compare, some ways they don't. The actual price of the bike I paid was $3,299, new they're $4,299. pretty popular mod, of course, would be the exhaust. The only problem is there's not many out there. I would love an Acropovic, but they didn't do it. And it's very loud without the baffle in. It does use the same engine actually as the 2011, I believe it's 2011 plus, the Honda CBR. It actually uses the same engine, just have different sprocket sizes, that's all it is. One of my favourite things about this bike is it looks a lot bigger. A lot of people do question if it's actually a 125, just purely down to the size of it. I would recommend quite a few people get one. It all depends on your style. If you like the MT, this is definitely worth a look into. My insurance particularly was cheaper because it's a slightly older age group, but of course it doesn't mean it's built for granddads. One thing I forgot to mention is where the keyhole is there when you're riding in the winter, it does get pretty gunked up, so you kind of have to clean it out. But the seat storage is not too bad. I've got my helmet, well, my visor cleaner in there because of course everyone needs that. Handy disc lock and a tool set.